Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another episode of Color Gab with me, Sharon. And this video is going to be just a little bit different. Now, if you watched my face-to-face chat that I put up yesterday, you will have you will have caught the part where I said that I wasn't sure if I explained very well how I gessoed my coloring page that I did last time. Let me go ahead and show you that. I'll show you the completed work because I did actually get that finished. And I've also done a video where I showed my completed pages, but I've finished this one, which is what we did last time in the Color Gab. And I'm hoping that I'm getting everything in the frame right there. Okay, so here is the picture that we did last time, and I went ahead and finished it. Okay, so we're going to be doing another picture out of the Lacy Sunshine's Flower Pot Pretties because I thought this a picture out of here would be good for demonstration purposes and stuff for what I'm gonna show you guys. So as I said in the video with the face-to-face chat, I was saying that I didn't know if I really explained very well how I did the gesso and stuff so that we could do the wet mediums on this paper, because this paper in these books, it is crap. It's not very good paper, and to do water mediums on this directly without any kind of protection, you're gonna totally destroy that paper. Even just a little bit of water, it's gonna destroy it. So you're gonna need some added protection if you want to do wet mediums in these kinds of books. So what I'm going to show you how I do this now. I'm not going to be calling this a tutorial because I am not in any way, shape, or form qualified to be passing myself off as an art teacher. Try to find our page that we're going to do. I am in no way, shape, or form going to be passing myself off as an art teacher, because that is just not my thing. But so I'm not calling this a tutorial or anything, or a lesson or whatever. But I'm just going to show you how I do this, and I'll explain why I feel it is needed for a book like this, unless you want to copy the page onto cardstock or something like that, or watercolor paper. So let me show you what we're going to need. You're going to need a coloring book with a coloring page. This is the picture that we're going to do right here. I mean, how much more adorable can this get? I mean, this is so cute. Absolutely adorable. Absolutely adorable. So I'm going to be showing you items as we go along for things that we're going to need. So also, this is really good if you're going to put acrylic background paint, you know, for a background on this, which is a good thing too, which is what I did in this picture here too, right? So by putting the gesso on there, you're going to have that paint go a little bit further, because it gives it kind of gives that paper an added kind of protection where it's not going to absorb, like where the stuff isn't going to absorb into it like it would otherwise. So what you're going to need is you're going to need your coloring page, okay? And then you're also going to need some wax paper because you want to protect your other pages. And I think I got this one way too big. I always get way too much wax paper for this. So I'm going to just kind of fold it up a little bit more. And so you're going to put this between your pages so that you can protect your next image, because you don't want to get anything on your next image that you're going to be doing. So snuck that in there real secure and snug, and just make sure it's in there real good so that everything behind it is protected. And you'll want to leave some kind of overhanging, because like when you're doing your gesso or your acrylic paint, you want to keep this wax paper around for when you're doing your acrylic background too, okay? Because this tends to get a little sloppy, okay? So not only are you going to need your coloring book and your page, but you are also going to need your clear gesso. This is one brand of clear gesso. This is from Art Basics, from I think it's Prima Marketing. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to make sure your gesso is mixed up. Now I tend to give mine a little bit of a shake, but take a spatula and let me show you what this gesso is going to look like. Okay. So you just open it up, and this gesso is just a white. It kind of looks like white glue, doesn't it? But what you want to make sure of is that you don't have liquid on top of your gesso. You want to have it kind of a thick consistency. And if you see any kind of liquid on the top, then just take a spatula and give it a little bit of a stir, and that'll help. So then you're going to need your gesso, and make sure it's clear gesso, because if you do white gesso, you're going to be painting over the top of your picture, and it's going to turn your paper white. Same thing for black. If you get black gesso, it's going to turn your page black, and you're not going to have your design anymore because it's going to be all covered up. So make sure you get some clear gesso, okay? And then you're going to need a paintbrush to apply it. Now, I have these three here that I tend to kind of go back and forth with. There's a smaller one, which you can use if you want. There's a medium-sized one, and then here is a large one. And I got these in a set of 3. These are very, very inexpensive, so you can pick whatever brush you want. I would just suggest that you dedicate a brush or set of brushes to gesso or applying any other kind of mediums like this. Like if you do art journaling, you're familiar with like matte medium stuff. And so make sure that you just dedicate a brush or set of brushes. And you don't need anything real expensive or anything. Just get something very inexpensive, but just dedicate that brush or that set of 3 brushes to applying this kind of medium. So what we're going to go ahead and do, and I'm going to make sure that we are in frame, and I'm going to take the medium-sized brush rather than the small one because we're covering a whole page. I want to get something a little bit bigger, and then this is a little bit too big. So this medium-sized one works very well. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to just go ahead and dip it into our gesso like so. Okay, so you just dip it in there, and then you take it and you're just going to, you take it and we're just going to apply it like paint, okay? So you want to make sure that you get it even. You want to get an even application on the page. Now, it is wet. The stuff is wet, so it's going to kind of crinkle your page, as you can kind of tell. But don't worry about that because it's going to be better when it dries. And don't freak out either because, as you can tell, it kind of looks like that the lines are being covered up. It looks like that they're going faint. When this dries, it'll be okay. The lines are going to show up as always. And you're not going to have anything to worry about. But it does take a little bit to dry. Now you could take a heat gun to this, but I just kind of like to I just tend to just let it dry. I like to just lay it flat and just let it dry. Now, as you can tell, this is going to crinkle up a little bit. It's going to wrinkle your page slightly, but when this dries, like I said, it's going to be better. And after it dries, if you want to let it sit for even a little while longer, you can take a book. You can take a book, and then you can put it over the top of it, or put the book on top of your page and let it sit for a little bit, and then just it'll flatten it out. So I'm just trying to make sure that I get all of the page covered, and then just kind of go over it a little bit more, but just try to get it as even as you can. And you don't need to apply several coats. One coat is plenty, really. But I like to be thorough, and I like to just make sure that I get every inch of this page covered. So what I tend to do is I tend to try to go in one direction. And then just kind of go across it to make sure that it's all spread out and even, like that. So you may have to dip your brush a couple of times. And then sometimes I'll just kind of take it and spread it down if I need to. Like if I have some wet areas up here, and if I kind of feel like that I need a little bit more down here, then I'll take it and just kind of spread it down there a little bit. But we've applied our gesso. Now when you get this applied, okay, keep your wax paper there, and then you just want to let it just let it sit and dry. If you don't want to apply a heat gun to it, you don't have to, but just make sure that it is completely dry before you do anything else to it, okay? So you don't want to put your acrylic paint on it before it dries. Make sure that it is completely dry before you put anything else on it. So just to recap, I've shown you how to apply the gesso. Now, I am no expert in this, but just make sure that you get a good sized brush, you know, so that you can apply some good even strokes. Make sure you get it as even as you can, okay? And make sure your gesso is mixed up real well. So make sure you apply even strokes or an even coat on this, and don't get freaked out because it kind of looks like the lines are faint, but when it dries, you're gonna see your design clearly. And just let it sit and let it dry if you do not want to apply a heat gun to it. And after it dries, if you find that your page is still too warped for your liking, make sure it is completely dry, because if you put a book or something on top of this, you're going to get gesso on whatever you set on top of it. So when it dries, if you want to flatten it out, if you want to reflatten your page, just put a book on top of it and let that sit for a little bit and it'll be okay. Okay? So that is how we do our gesso. Now, when you are done with your gesso, make sure you get your lid on it real secure, and then also clean out your brush, because if you let this dry in your brush, it's going to be a bitch to get out. So you want to clean this out after you get your gesso put on. So I'm going to go ahead and let this sit and dry, and then I will come back and we're going to add some acrylic paint to our background on this. All right, so I will be back when this is dry. Alright guys, this is still drying just a bit. It's still got quite a ways to go to dry, but I did want to come back while we're waiting and explain why we want to add this gesso to our page in a book like this. I started applying the gesso and talked and showed you how I apply it and stuff, but I never explained really why you would want to do this, or why it's beneficial, or why you would even want to go through this step. Now, gesso, like, you probably heard of gesso. A lot of people that do art journaling will use gesso on their pages, or the people that will paint on canvases will prime their canvases with gesso. Now, what this gesso does is it kind of gives your canvas or your paper some extra tooth, so that the paint that they're going to use adheres to it a little bit more, and so that the paint does not absorb into the canvas or the paper, and sink down into that paper or that canvas like that. So we're gonna talk about paper. I don't really know too much about canvas because I really don't paint on canvas, but I'll just kind of explain to you why I would apply gesso to paper like this. Now, this paper, like I said, is crap. You try to put any kind of wet medium on it, any kind of anything on it other than like something dry, and you're going to destroy this paper. So what this gesso does is it adds a little bit of protection to this paper. It kind of gives it a layer of an added layer, so that your mediums can work with it a little bit. And so what happens is it gives it a little bit of extra tooth to your paper. And also it kind of puts a little glaze on this paper, so that your stuff isn't going to sink down into it and just totally destroy the fibers of the paper. It just kind of gives it that extra protection, that extra layer to work with. So by putting the gesso on this page, we're giving it a little bit more help, to keep it. We're giving it some help to kind of keep it more healthy when we're going to abuse it a little bit. So that is why we're putting this gesso on there, to give it that extra help and protection, and to give ourselves that opportunity to use our wet mediums on this paper. So that is pretty much why we're going to be using this gesso. All right, so again, I'm going to come back when all this is dry. Alright guys, so what we're going to go ahead and show you next, actually I had to take a little bit of a break between the first part of this video and now. So I actually started filming this on Thursday the 8th, I think it is. Today's the 9th, the 8th or 9th. Anyway, it's Friday. I started filming this on Thursday, but today's Friday. I had to take a little bit of a break because there was ended up with a phone call that, from a long distance friend of mine, and some other things I had to do. Plus I needed to go get my nails done. So I'll show you my new nails, guys. So we got pink, and then she put a little design on these little fingers here. So there's my new nails. But what I'm going to show you guys next is I wanted to show you this Liquitex Basics set that I got. Now you guys have seen this in a haul video. I did this quite a while back ago, but there is like 48 tubes, I think, in this thing. Yeah, 48 tubes. And so we have all of these different colors here. There's tray 1, and the one is missing because I have it sitting out like this. This is Mars Black, which is what we're going to use. So here is our, whoops, here's a second tray of these colors, and I'm just going to quickly show you guys these. Because now this set wasn't that expensive. I will link it in the description section from Amazon. That's where I got it. And it just gives you a nice selection of acrylic paint, and it's pretty cheap. I know a lot of people have used Apple Barrel or Americana or something like that, and that's perfectly fine. But I ended up finding this Liquitex Basics set, and I felt that I hit the jackpot. So there's 48 little tubes in this, which is pretty cool. I think it's like 7 milliliters or something like that. So it's not really very much paint in these little tubes, but and here's what the top of it looks like. There's not really very much paint in these little tubes, but it gives you enough where you can actually get you know, a decent amount of paint to be able to do your art journaling or your backgrounds or whatever. So anyway, what we're going to go ahead and do, and let me just show you what we've got. I'm gonna put this black paint in this little paint palette here. I just have this little paint palette, and we're just going to put some acrylic paint in our little coloring book. Now, another thing I want to show you guys is I did get this set of brushes a few years back. Now, you don't need anything fancy to do this. Just, you know, use whatever brushes that you want to use. Just make sure that you dedicate however many brushes to your acrylic paint and not use your same brushes that you use for your watercolors on your acrylics. So have like separate brushes for your acrylics and then have separate brushes for your, you know, for your watercolors. But it comes in this little roll, and this is, I don't think this was terribly expensive. I forget how many brushes is in here. I think there's like maybe 12 or something. But I got this set a few years back because I had a wild hair up my ass that I was going to take a painting class. And so I found this set on Amazon, and I picked it up, and then I got to thinking about it later. Like, I never really did anything about the class, and I got to thinking about it later, and I'm going, what the heck was I smoking? What was I thinking? Because I cannot paint or draw to save my soul. But so I had these brushes, and I figured this would be good for, you know, just doing like whatever I needed to do. So they do come in useful. So we're going to go ahead and take I want to go ahead and take a smaller brush to apply our acrylic, because we have to get near the lines without going over those lines, and so this will give us a good amount of control. So we're going to put the brushes over here. But like I said, you don't need anything fancy. You don't need anything super expensive to do this. It's just what I had. And if I think about it, I will link that in the description section on Amazon. So if you guys feel the need to get a diverse set like that, you can. But you don't really need anything, you know, too expensive to apply, you know, acrylic paint or anything. So now I do want to kind of point out that you probably saw like a little white smudge on my table, and I ended up spilling some gesso on it. So the other day when I was gessoing my page, and I guess I didn't get it all the way up. And if you if you do spill gesso on your table or something, or drip it, just it comes off pretty easily. Just kind of scrape it a little bit with your nail, and it'll come off pretty easily. But anyway, go ahead and put your wax paper again between your pages. So here is our gessoed page that we did last. Oops, that's not our gessoed page. All right. All right, get with the program here. Get with the program here. All right, here is our gessoed page. This is the picture that we're going to be doing. So again, put your wax paper between your gessoed page so you don't get your paint all over everything. And just as I always say in my videos, I am doing this with a visual impairment, so I'm going to have to get close to see what the heck I'm doing. So you will probably see my hair or my head in the way. So I do apologize for that, but in case there's anybody new that comes over to my channel, just know that I'm doing this with a visual impairment, so I have to get pretty close to be able to see what I'm doing, but I try to be a little bit mindful of that so we don't get it in the way too much. So I'm going to put, now you also want to have like a little thing of water there so you can rinse out your brush when you're done. Make sure you wash out your brushes real good when you're done too, because otherwise you're going to have a hot mess and you're going to ruin your brush. So we're going to take this Mars Black. We're going to take Mars Black, and we're just going to put just a little bit into our little paint well here. And I don't think we're going to need that much. And we can always add more if we need to. Now this picture here doesn't really have too much area where you need to put in your background, but we're going to go ahead and get it started. So anyway, we can just go ahead and chat while we do this a little bit. And I'm going to try. Now what I do is I like to try to get as near the lines as I can. I try to do the, I try to get like real close to the lines as I can at first, and then I will spread out and then do the, then I'll spread out and actually do the what do you call it? The outer edges of the picture here. But I'd like to try to get near the lines first, okay? And it's not going to be a perfect job, but we're going to do the best we can. And try not to go over your line. You be very, very careful with this. I was so afraid to do this for the longest time because I had such a bad experience with the gouache. I had a picture that I tried to put a black background with some gouache, but gouache is like watercolor. It's just basically an opaque watercolor, and gouache, like watercolor, will spread. So I didn't get a whole heck of a lot of control with that when I was applying that. But this acrylic paint is a lot thicker. It's different, and it's very different, so it's not like it's going to it's not like it's going to be it's not like it's gonna, what am I saying? It's not like it's gonna like make a big puddle or anything. And this part right here, okay guys, I have to get really close to get this little edge here. This is gonna be a little bit different right there. Okay. So this takes a little bit to do, depending on how busy the picture is. Like if there's a lot of twisties and turns and stuff, and if you go over your line a little bit, I guess it's not that big of a deal, but you can always kind of color over it with your pencils. And now, as you can see with this gesso on this page, this paint goes a lot further than it would with an ungessoed page, because I've not really had to dip my paint, I've not had to dip my brush in the paint for, you know, for a while yet. I'm just trying to get it so I don't get on our design here. So I don't want to do that. And so pardon the silence while I do these little tiny parts right there. So I will, now I got it over the line just a little bit, but I'll color over that with my pencil. It won't be so bad. But like I said, if you have an ungessoed page, the paint will not go as far as what it's doing now, especially on paper like this. On paper like this, it is not... on paper like this, it will sink right into those fibers, and you will have a bit of a mess. All right, guys, so we are back. Now, I looked at my footage, and some of it wasn't even in frame. So what I did was, now you got a little bit of an idea of how to apply this acrylic paint. I mean, it's not rocket science. So you just try to go over your background here and put it down. Now, I got a little sloppy with the paint. I had to take a little smaller brush and try to get near my lines. I got a little bit over some of the lines, like over here. I didn't do such a good job over here and all that, but I can fix, I think I can fix what I did. Yeah, you could go over a lot of that with your pencils and you should be okay. So for the most part, it's okay. It's not perfect, but it's gonna do the trick, and I will try to fix what I messed up. So, all right, so what we're gonna go ahead and do is I'm going to show you that you can, once you gesso your page and stuff, and once your stuff dries, you can actually you can use wet mediums on these pages. But you have to, in paper like this, it is best to gesso it. So we're gonna use our Neocolor IIs, and we're gonna, now, I have sapphire blue, okay? This is sapphire blue, and we're going to be a little bit different with this flower pot. Now, I kind of made my flower pots red or whatever, but we're going to be a little different. It's my coloring book, so darn it, if I want a blue flower pot, I will have a blue flower pot. And so we're going to go ahead and make a blue flower pot just because we're cool that way. So we're going to just take our water brush, and we're going to put some color on this, and we're just going to start watercoloring on this thing. So anyway, and I'm just going to make sure that I'm in frame, because last time I was not. So again, pardon my head when that's going to happen. So anyway, we're just going to kind of chat and do some stuff while we color today. So I hope everybody has been having a good week. Today is Friday, and again, we have a busy weekend. What else is new? What else is new? I've not had a free weekend since April, like I was saying in my little chat. So we're just going to color this whole thing blue down here. Right down here. And I'll go in later on with some pencils and shade it and stuff, but we're just going to put down this real light coloring of it here. So, like I said, we have a very busy weekend, so I want to try to get this uploaded. If I don't get it uploaded today, which is Friday, I will do it tomorrow night, once I am able to get near my computer again. So we will see what happens. So if you guys have watched Anne from A Colorful Life, she has been doing these color and chats, but she has been like singing her little heart out. Now, I was cracking up so bad the other night because she started doing this Rockin' Robin, and when she was doing her little birds, like, and she was talking about, all right, I'm just going to break out on a song, like, I knew she was going to be doing this Rockin' Robin, and it's actually one of my favorite oldies, but I am not going to be able to think of that song in the same way now, because it was just so funny, and she was laughing all the way through when she was singing it, but she was so silly. She was so silly during that video, and I just had to laugh. I couldn't help it. But we're gonna sing today. Now we're gonna call this like Color and Gab and sing along, like once the little gesso informative thing is over with. But I was actually thinking about songs that either like creep you out or make you really sad or make you just laugh and smile. And now I was thinking about songs that kind of creep me out a little bit or make me really sad. And now I'm a big fan of 50s and 60s music. I love like 50s doo-wop, but I also love like early early 60s music too. And back in that era, there were a lot of, like, they call it teen tragedy songs, because, like, it talked about, like, you know, getting into a wreck and then, like, you know, one of them dying or whatever. Usually it was the girl that died. Usually it was the girl that died. But there was one that really, like, creeped me out. And it was called Laurie, Laurie, or sometimes it's been called Strange Things Happen in This World. And it was sung by a, let's see, is that part of the flower pot? Let me see what I got here. Okay. It was sung by a man named Dickie Lee. And Dickie Lee often sang these really sad, haunting songs. Another one that he did was called Patches, and it was very, very, very sad. But the one that creeped me out was called Laurie, or Strange Things Happen in This World. It went something like, now I'm going to have to kind of interrupt the tune just a little bit, because I know if I just sing the song straight through, it's going to copyright me, because it did that to me once before. So we're going to have to give a little bit of interruptions during some of the phrasing, you know, for a couple of seconds. But it went something like, last night at the dance, I met Laurie, so lovely and warm, an angel of a girl. Last night I fell in love with Laurie. Strange things happen in this world. And I think he sang it in a different key, but I'm not going to sing the whole thing. Basically what this song was about was, it was about this guy who met this girl at this dance, you know, like the first verse said, and he was talking about how he fell in love with her, and she said that it was her birthday, and so, you know, she was telling him that it was her birthday, and so later on he walked her home, and he asked if he could see her again, but you know, she didn't answer like one way or the other. She just said that she was really cold, and she asked for his sweater because she felt just really, really cold, and he gave it to her. So she went into her house, and all right, we got to get another color. She went into her house, and but later on, you know, he thought about the sweater and needed to go back and get it. So he went back to her house to knock on the door and ask her for it. Let's see what we want to do next. Let's see what we can color this flower. We're going to color our little flower, and so he went and asked her, he went to her house to ask her for her little, for his sweater back. And so her dad answered the door, and he asked to see Laurie to get the sweater back. And Dad says, well, you're wrong, and you're very wrong. Laurie isn't here. She died a year ago on her birthday. So he was actually dancing with a dead girl, like Laurie had died. So Laurie had, you know, come back as a ghost and had gone to this dance. And so, so after he talked to Dad, he said that a strange force just kind of pulled him to the graveyard. And I'm going to have to apply this Neo 2, I think, directly to this. He said a strange force pulled him to the graveyard, so he went, and he found his sweater laying on top of her grave. So that is why it is said strange things happen in this world. So it's a very creepy kind of song. It's got a pretty tune, but boy, it's really creepy. Another one that sort of gave me the little willies a little bit, and I swear, like this kind of prophesied. Okay, yeah. Sometimes with these lighter colors, it is best to apply the Neo 2 directly to it. It's at least it is for me, because it's easier for me to see. But anyway, like I was saying, another one that kind of gave me the willies, and I swear, like this song was a prophecy for future events. Now this song was done back in the, I think, mid-60s, and it's called In the Year 2525, and it was a one-hit wonder by Zedgar and Evans, how it was pronounced, but Zedgar and Evans, and it talked about like how what could possibly happen in the future. And if you listen to that song, YouTube it, but if you listen to that song, you will see that a lot of what they were talking about has actually been going on. But it starts out, now again, I'm not going to sing the whole thing, and I'm not going to sing the whole thing, and then I'm going to have to kind of interrupt a little bit with the phrasing, because I'm sure it'll copyright me, because it did before. So it starts out real slow, and it goes something like, in the year 2525, if man is still alive, if woman can survive, they may find. And then it really kicks into high gear. It goes into a faster tempo, and it goes again something like in the year 3535, ain't gonna need to tell the truth, tell no lies. Everything you think, said, do, and say is in the pill you took today. And then it just goes on. And the next one is 4545. Something like you won't need no teeth or your eyes. There's nothing to see, and nobody's gonna look at you. In 5555, let's see. In the year 5555, your arms are hanging limp at your sides. Your legs got nothing to do. Some machine's doing that for you. Oh, oh. And it just goes on and on and on till it gets to 9595. And I mean, just YouTube it. Just YouTube it, listen to it. And listen to the lyrics, and you will see what I mean, that it just totally is a prophecy of things that, has been possible for a while now, things that have been going on right now. Like, it talks about test tube babies. There was a reference to test tube babies. It talks about... what was another one? What was another one? Well, anyway, you just have to YouTube it, and you just have to Google it and YouTube it and listen to it, and you will catch my meaning. There was another one that is really creepy. And it's called They're Coming to Take Me Away, and it's by Weird Napoleon, and I forget the group, but it's Weird Napoleon, and it's called They're Coming to Take Me Away. And the chorus goes something like, and it's not really a song, he kind of like speaks it, and he does it in this weird, like, disturbed voice. But it's like, they're coming to take me away, ha ha, hee hee, ho ho, to the funny farm where life is beautiful all the time, and I'll be happy to see those nice young men in their clean white coats, and they're coming to take me away. And but just YouTube it and Google it, and if you listen to the lyrics, in the beginning you think that he's talking about like his girlfriend or something, but if you go and listen to the very end, you will find out that he is talking about his dog who ran away, who keeps running away. So it is really, really, it's funny, but it's very disturbing at the same time. But just Google, They're Coming to Take Me Away by Weird Napoleon, and you will see exactly what I mean. Okay. Now another one, oh my gosh, and we are like so on the subject of creepy songs. But another one from a different era. This is from the 70s, I think. And I'm going to see what else. I'm going to come back and choose another color, and then we'll talk about that other creepy song. Okay, so I know that we're back, and I know that this color is going to be pretty light. Now we're going to do some skin tones, so I've decided to choose this one. And I know this is going to be pretty light, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply it directly to some areas, and then we'll go over it with the water brush, because sometimes with these lighter colors that just does quite a bit better for me. And then we'll come back with the pencils and shade. But as I was saying, another song that just totally creeps me out, and it's called Angie Baby, and it was from another era. Oh, that's going to be pretty. It's from another era, from the 70s, I believe. And it is a song by Helen Reddy. And it's called Angie Baby. And the beginning of it goes something like, you live your life in the songs you hear on the rock and roll radio. And then, when a young girl doesn't have any friends, it's a really nice place to go. Folks hoping you turn out cool, but they had to take you out of school. You're a little touched, you know, Angie Baby. And then it just kind of goes on, and it just talks about how she lives in this world of make-believe, and her world comes alive through the songs that she hears on the radio. But there is another verse where there is a neighbor boy who has been peeking in her room, to see what she's up to. And so he goes to visit her one day or one night. And so what happens was, like, he went to go visit her one day, and he says, I hear the folks have gone away, and I'll show you how to have a good time. And I'm going to try to get over here on her hand. He says, I will show you how to have a good time. And so then it kind of goes on where it says, when he walked in the room, he feels confused. Like he walks into a play. And the music's so loud that it spins him around till his soul has lost its way. And then it goes something like, and as she turns the volume down, he's getting smaller with the sound. Toward the radio he's bound. Kind of forget the lyrics. And then, never to be found. So what happens is as she turns the radio down, he gets sucked into the radio. And he only comes out when she summons him. It seems like when she's listening to her music. And it talks about how the headlines say that that a boy disappeared, and everyone thinks that he had died, but except the crazy girl, the secret lover who keeps her satisfied. So he comes out of the radio at night to be with her, if you know what I mean. And because she's insane, she doesn't really have to explain. So I don't think anybody really connected her with his disappearance. But or if they did, she's just insane. So they don't ask her about it. But that song is really creepy. Again, YouTube it, and you will look at those cute little freckles. You will be able to listen to that. Look at those cute little freckles. Oh my gosh. So I'm going to try to, now I will get her lips in a little while. But yeah, you'll be able to listen to it if you YouTube it. But it is another really creepy one. I mean, that one totally creeped me out. But it makes for, it kind of inspired. Now, one thing about what songs will do with me is, you guys know that I like to write fiction. And so what happens is a lot of the songs will inspire some of the stories I write. Now, the one that I was talking about called Lori, That one I wrote a little Halloween story with, and used my Sims 3 game to illustrate it. And so that was inspired by the song Lori. And I have another thing that is going to be inspired by Angie Baby. Not really, it's not going to be the exact, same story, obviously, but it's just going to be the inspiration to, Angie Baby was the inspiration to, for the story that I'm going to be writing with that. Okay. Now I will show you, as we are doing this, I will show you that this does not go through. Look at that. We don't really have any bleed through. So if you gesso this, you are going to get some really, really good results if you use your water mediums. All right, guys, we are back. So we're going to go ahead and take this color and we're going to work on this flower up here, right there. So, all right, enough of the sad, creepy songs, let me tell you. Actually, I didn't even really sing any sad ones, but there was one, oh my gosh. There is a sad song that made me cry so hard, and this again was going back to the 60s. And now there's been others that make me cry, and there's some that I cannot sing without crying. But there was one, actually, you know what, this looks kind of purple, doesn't it? Like, I thought it was more of a blue, but this one looks kind of purple, but that is good. I like how this is going to turn out. There is one that made me cry so hard, like when I heard it, and it was from the 60s, and it is called Teen Angel, and it was about this guy and girl that go out on the date, and of course they get into the car stalled on the railroad tracks, so it goes something like, that fateful night the car was stalled upon the railroad track. I pulled you out and we were safe, but you went running back. And then the chorus goes into, I'm going to start painting a little bit here. The chorus goes into, Teen Angel, can you hear me? Teen Angel, can you see me? And then we're just going to give a little bit of an interruption so I don't get copyrighted. Are you somewhere up above? And am I still your own true love? And then it just talks about just kind of how sad he was and how, why did she go back after they were safe? Well, they found his class ring in her fingers. So she went back to save it and she died for it. And it just kind of talked about how sad he was and, that he'll never see her again and all that. And so, see, like back in the 60s, back in that era, there was a lot of songs like that. Very, very sad, kind of depressing songs like that. Also back in that era, there were a lot of car songs. Jan and Dean were very, very famous for their car songs. They had one, I think probably my favorite one is Dead Man's Curve. And I'm not going to sing that one because I can't remember all the lyrics to that one. But Dead Man's Curve is another kind of sad one. About, two guys that were drag racing, and the narrator, the one that's singing the song, talked about how they were drag racing, and the guy that was in the Jaguar, how he went over Dead Man's Curve and or went through it, and he crashed his car and didn't survive. So at the end, like, you hear the narrator telling the doctor what happened. So you don't know if the narrator is like on his deathbed, like you know that he got hurt, but you don't know if he's on his deathbed making a confession, or if you don't know that like he's going to survive and he's just kind of telling the doctor what happened. You don't know. You don't know. So some of it leaves a lot to the imagination. So those are some like creepy kind of sad songs from the 50s and 60s that I wanted to tell you guys about, and the one from the 70s called Angie Baby. Now there is one that is one of my favorite songs to sing, and this one I think it made its debut like in the 80s. And where the heck is my lid? It made its debut in the 80s, and it also got popular in the 90s, I believe, and it is called The Power of Love, and I'm going to sing a little bit of that while I look for another color. Alright guys, we're going to make our little girl a redhead, I think. So this is going to turn out to be kind of a light pink, but we're going to just go in with it, and then I'll come back and do the shading with some red pencils. But as I was saying, one of my favorite songs to sing is called The Power of Love, and I'll just sing a little bit of it. The whispers in the morning of lovers sleeping tight, all rolling by like thunder now as I look in your eyes. I hold on to your body and feel each move you make. Your voice is warm and tender, a love that I could not forsake. And then the chorus is gonna go, 'cause I am your lady, and you are my man. Little interruption. Whenever you reach for me, I'll do all that I can. And then it just goes on from there. But it is, it's not a very easy song to sing because you have to have a lot of breath control, let me tell you. And it's one of those that really call for a lot of a lot of volume and power when you get up to that chorus. Okay, so we're gonna work on her little hair. Now, I may have to apply this directly because this may be kind of a light color. All right, we're going to apply this kind of directly to her hair, and then we'll spread it out with the water. Sometimes I will do that with these lighter colors because sometimes, at least for me, now sometimes it may not happen with a lot of people, but with me, when it comes off just too light, I have a hard time seeing it. So we're just going to apply it directly to some of the strategic places, and then we'll bring down the water. Okay, bring down the rain here. So we're just going to go over here. But yeah, so that song requires like a lot of breath control and a lot of volume when you get to that chorus and stuff. Now, my ribbons here, like she's got some ribbons in her hair, and now I think we're going to do those like a bright red, or maybe not. We're making her a redhead, so I may choose another color to just accentuate that. Now this looks pink, but we're going to go in with some red later on, with some red pencils, and then it should look all right. So, but anyway, there was a song, and it was kind of a little folk song, and a lot of groups have done it. The Kingston Trio. I'm not sure if Peter, Paul, and Mary ever did a version of it. The Lennon Sisters did one. A group called the Browns did it. but it's called Scarlet Ribbons, and it's kind of like, it's not really like sad, it kind of turns out happy, but it's just one of those, it's kind of got like a little melancholy melody kind of thing, and it kind of made my heart bleed a little bit. But that one goes something like, I peeked in to say good night, and I heard my child in prayer. And then it goes into the verses. Please bring me some scarlet ribbons for my hair. And then it just kind of goes on, you know, where the little girl prays for some scarlet ribbons to put in her hair. And it was mom or dad, you know, depending on who is singing the song. But mom or dad, you know, go to all the stores, and everything was closed, you know, because they're looking for the ribbons to make the little girl happy. And they couldn't find any, and so they were disturbed because, you know, they couldn't find it to, you know, to make her happy, because it's all she wanted was her little scarlet ribbons. And so when they come back home, you know, they go into the little girl's room, and on the bed is some scarlet ribbons, and it's really mysterious how they came there, but, you know, her prayer was answered, and she got some little scarlet ribbons. So I thought that was a very, very cute little song. It's cute, but it's kind of sad at the same time because of the little melancholic melody, and, you know, just I don't know, just the meaning of it, it just kind of makes my heart bleed a little bit. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and come in and make some pretty yellow flowers. Now, I know that this is gonna be really light, so we're gonna apply the Neocolor II directly to the page. But yeah, I think that is our little sing-along for the day. That is our little sing-along for the day. So yeah, some creepy, sad songs, and then a favorite one that I like to sing. All right. So anyway, what has everybody been up to? I think I might have asked this at the beginning of the video. I am up to about 5 foot. Oh gosh, I am short. Like, I don't know if you guys knew this, but I am short. So has everybody been reading anything good lately? I started, it seems like every time I do these coloring chats, like I am reading Stephen King. And I have read a lot of Stephen King before anyway, but I am reading another Stephen King. This one is called Nightmares and Dreamscapes. And this one is a collection of short stories. This one is an old book. This is an older book called Nightmares and Dreamscapes. And it's got stories such as, there's one called Sorry, Right Number, which there was a show that was a TV show that was on back in the 80s called Tales from the Dark Side, and this story was featured on that story. And that one is about a woman who gets this phone call from, she thought it was her daughter, and then when it wasn't her daughter, she thought it was her mom, then she thought it was her sister, but it was a woman crying hysterically, and she couldn't figure out what she was trying to say before, you know, the phone went dead. And so she was trying to figure out what she was trying to say and who it was. And she couldn't figure it out. Like, you know, they checked on her mom, they checked on the daughter, you know, they checked on her sister, and they couldn't make any heads or tails of it. Well, later on, that morning, or, you know, in the middle of the night, about like 2 in the morning or something, the woman's husband died, and of a heart attack. And so, you know, they go through the funeral, the grieving process and stuff. And then years later, you know, the kids, you know, they're older and grown up, and the daughter is getting married. And I think mom is remarried again and so forth. So, you know, mom is talking to the daughter on the wedding day and all that, you know, and how her dad would have been really proud and all that. So later on, as the woman is sitting in the house, like after the reception and stuff is over, I think it's either after the reception is over or they're getting her to come out and you know, celebrate with them or something, because she's sitting in the house and she's talking about how she missed her husband. And so then she you know, she gets an overwhelming urge to get on the phone, and she's dialing a number, and it turns out that she's dialing the number to her old house. And so what it was is she finally figures out who it was that called her so many years ago. And it was actually her future self calling her present day self to tell her to take the husband to the hospital if they want him to live, because he's going to have a heart attack. But she doesn't get the message through because she's crying so hard, and then the phone just goes dead. So there's only just that limited time where, see, like, you could paint right over this acrylic. Like, if you mess up your acrylic, you could paint, like, right over that, and it will work out. So I'm going to, like, some of the parts that I've messed up, I will go over with pencils and fix that. But, so it was it was like a foreshadowing thing. It was really, oh my gosh. And Stephen King, of course, you know, he's got some scary stuff, but that one was, like, just really just, it's one of those, like, where you feel a goose walking over your grave. It's like, ooh, scary, scary, scary. So that collection of stories has that particular story in it, as well as one called Dolan's Cadillac. And there's another one called, what else does it have in there? There's a lot of stories in there that I don't remember, but it's a good collection of stories. I enjoy it. And I've got the audiobook version, so there's different narrators reading it, and man, they did such a good job with that. They really did. They did such a good job with that. And it's really creepy. Like, it will give you your little weeknight frights if you want that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and come back and color her bows and her little dress violet, I think. And I think because this is going to be a darker color, we can go in and just take the color right off of the crayon. So I forgot what I was saying before I went to choose some colors here. Yeah. So, gosh. Oh yeah, I was talking about the Stephen King stories in Nightmares and Dreamscapes. But yeah, there's quite a few really, really good stories in there, and I have read that book before. But again, you know, there's times that I like to go back and visit certain things, and there's some of the stories that I wanted to reread in there, so that's what I'm going to do. And like I said, I have the audiobook version of this book, which is really, really cool. Because there's all kinds of, like, different narrators and stuff, and yeah. Here's her little bow. And I'm going to take and I'm going to get a little bit more color to darken this up a little bit. Oh yeah, that's good. And like I said, I will go in here and do some more of this with my pencils and do some shading and stuff. And I think I'm going to go ahead and use my polychromos on this, because I think that will work really well over acrylic paint. So if there's areas that I need to fix up, I will do that and go over that and use that to go over the acrylic paint. So I will do that. And we're going to be having a hamburger for lunch. So my daughter's over there cooking, so if you hear sizzle, sizzle, that is what is going on. So and we'll do the same thing to her dress. What I'm going to end up doing is I think I'm going to make the bottom portion darker, and then I'll make the top portion a little bit lighter. So I'm going to take this, we're going to make this quite a bit darker down here. Like so. And again, I'm going to do, I'm going to do quite a bit of shading with our pencils when that time comes, and then I'm just going to take it and we'll just do a light layer here. This here is part of the dress. Okay. And let's see where else. I think right here is part of the dress too. Alright guys, we're actually going to go ahead and stop this video here. And then we'll come back in a part 2 and we will continue where we left off. And I might do a little bit off camera, maybe I'll finish up with the Neos and then we'll come back with the pencils and we'll do some shading and then our picture will be done. So stay tuned for a part 2. And we will see you then. You guys have a great day. Hit that like button, leave a comment, and tell me what you think. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you have not done that already. And better yet, hit that bell. You'll be notified when I upload new videos. As I said, have a great day, have a great weekend, and we will talk to you all later. Bye, guys.